You've got Football Manager saves that need saving, and I'm here to save them. Let's get to work. Our first save comes from the frigid north of Scotland and a user named Parrot Confusion at Stranraer FC. Hi there. Hi. I've been managing Stranraer for a few seasons now, and at first things were going great. I managed to get the club promoted twice over the course of 4 seasons and even won a trophy along the way. However, now that we've reached the Cinch Championship, things are starting to go wrong. The club's finances are terrible, and no matter what I try to do in terms of decreasing junior coaching budgets and downgrading facilities, they see no signs of returning to normal. Additionally, we are currently on the brink of relegation back into League One, and I face the prospect of being fired if this happens. Despite my players looking good on paper, they seem to be unable to compete at this level, and I have tried a number of tactics to combat this. Thanks, Parrot Confusion. 10 points for politeness. I wasn't even recording yet. I was just doing my normal click around the teams, and then all of a sudden I see a scouting deficit of $360,000. What are you scouting? The entire population of Uzbekistan with independent airfare? $360,000? You could take a family of 12 on a 250-day cruise around planet Earth for $360,000. What are your scouts doing? Did they buy the whole resort in Mexico? What on earth is going on? Your scouting deficit is $360,000. You're in the 2nd division of Scotland. I would be surprised if you could scout the entire world. Stop scouting. You're in financial trouble because of your scouting. Please stop. You have 170 players in your scouting priority list. For what? They're not on your short list. Where are these guys coming from? You have 331 players? 331 players on your short list. When I'm playing as the biggest clubs in the world, I don't have this many players on my short list. I'm not here to shortlist shame. I love it, but you've got a guy like Kyle Espinoza who is in the United States. That's very far away. That is expensive to scout when you're a club like this that doesn't have any money, and you have this ticked. Keep scout reports up to date. Your scouts are losing their ever-loving mind, and if you look at your finances, you are $401,000 in debt, and you've run up $360,000 worth of scouting debt. This is also absolutely salvageable. Just stop. Just do that. You'll be fine. Just do that. Also, you should never be downgrading your training facilities, levels of youth recruitment if you haven't been relegated. That's the sort of thing that you only do when you've been relegated and you realize that it's going to be a bit of a battle to get back up because of financial improprieties at the club, or you just happen to be awful and you're trying to rebuild a team like that. That's the only time you should do that. Any other situation, especially you having just been promoted from League One last year, you don't need to do that. But I cannot emphasize to you how wasteful it is to be scouting players like this. You can't even sign Kyle Espinoza. Not only does he have no interest, he can't get a work permit. When we take your shortlist and we go to scout for transfer and we invert it, you're maintaining scouting reports and a bunch of players that don't matter at all. If you are not in the top level, in the top league, in the country you're managing in, you shouldn't be spending money on anybody, and you shouldn't be trying to develop anybody. Your whole goal is to just get to the next league by any means necessary. And you can start by loaning in 5 players every window. If you want to use your scouts effectively, stop scouting 300 guys you're not going to sign and start scouting potential loan targets from the top Scottish League or the Championship or Premier League in England. You can actually loan infinitely outside of Scotland, so you can technically build a whole team of loans.
1 hour later, 2 hours later, 3 hours later.
So I think you'll be able to keep your job even though you're into the relegation playoff. Just reduce the amount of scouting you're doing intensively, sign players for free, stop making your facilities worse, and follow the model of this video, which is actually a guide about how to sign good players while being in lower leagues. I'm quite literally doing the same thing almost on my Twitch stream. I'm trying to go from the 6th flight of England to winning the Premier League, and we're already in League One. Next! From Big Man on Campus, we're actually staying in Scotland with Hurlford United. My team is in the 4th season in the 5th tier of Scotland. Top 3 in the first 3 seasons, but you need to win the league to have a chance at promotion. I feel like issues with the team that I'm on 1-year contracts, so not much of a chance for development, and my team is too broke to improve facilities. Think you can help? I think I can. You're thinking about this wrong. If you have an average annual payroll of $175,000, you don't need to be worrying about developing players at all, or the facilities of your team. The facilities will come with time, and you're not going to be building excellent facilities in the 5th division. There is one important thing that you need to do. spend that payroll. You are currently spending about half of your potential payroll. You do not need to worry about bankrupting your club at all. All you need to do is win. You're already close. You finished second and third over the last 2 years, and you need to win the league. Spend this payroll on free players matriculating down from the divisions above you. Maintain an end-of-contract shortlist so you can trial these guys and find the good players and offer them contracts and get up to the next division. You're not going to be developing players until you get to the Scottish Premiership in a serious way. So what you need to do is sign players that will help you win now. 1-year contracts, no issue. Your team should be turning over a lot year to year anyways. Next, we have Fansti909 at Dinamo Zagreb. My first time playing FM, and I decided to take your recommendation of playing with Dinamo Zagreb, currently in the 27-28 season. I have won the league every season, and at one point had a 133 league game unbeaten run. First time playing FM. I feel like I am now at a point I should start to push for Champions League wins, however I'm unsure what I need to do to get over that hump. I have a big bank balance, average 60 million a year wage and 60 million budget. Should I start buying players who are ready now instead of wonder kids that aren't? The league homegrown rules are more restrictive at this point than the Champions League, so I'm trying to balance that as well. If you'd look at my tactic too, I would appreciate it a lot, of course. So first off, excellent job not crashing the bus your first time really playing Football Manager. Even with Dinamo Zagreb winning 133 or not losing 133 consecutive league games is very impressive. As for the Champions League, I can go ahead and smash this preconception right now. You're not going to be able to upfront sign players that are good enough to achieve massive success in the Champions League because you're just not a big enough club. When you go to club info, you can see you're only a 3.5-star club, and you need to be a 4.5 to 5-star club to be signing the best players in the world, and even then you're in the Croatian league, which is like fringe top 15 and nowhere near the top 5 where the best players are going to want to be. So the game that you are now playing conceptually is finding the great young wonder kids around the world before the big guys do, and locking them in to long contracts. And what I can see is you're not 100% into that right now. You did find a Swiss guy, Christoph Comanzo. He's got that 5-star potential. Jesus Fernandez Vasquez. This guy is freaking awesome. This is the type of guy that can get you out of a Champions League group stage for sure. And if he's only 3 stars, assuming you have a good assistant coach providing your star ratings, that means that your team is definitely good enough to be getting out of Champions League group stages, which is true. For those that don't know, Champions League switches to a league format in the future of Football Manager, and they've been making it to the knockout playoff round pretty consistently, but have not made it out of the round of 16 yet. They have a matchup pending against Manchester City, actually. Lost to Monaco in the knockout, lost to Liverpool in the knockout, lost to Arsenal in the knockout. My issue here is that we are looking at just 3-4 guys that you have brought in that are on this level, and there doesn't seem to be a cadre of other players that are matching that right now. You do have Indrik, which, dude, congratulations. I'm just like reflexively clearing a scouting center. You had the max 100 people in your scouting center. You should probably clear this. This is where you're going to see a lot of players come through, and I'm noticing that based off your recruitment focuses, they seem to be a little low. You might want to raise that at least 1, maybe 2, so that you can narrow down the number of players that you're having to filter through. But overall, after reviewing your scouting, it's set up pretty well. I think what you're missing is the X factor in scouting, looking at youth national teams across the world, which might sound stupid, but it's a fabulous way to get talented young players. When a U20 tournament happens, scout all of the people you think could be good potential signings for you. Don't scout the people that are at Chelsea already. Scout the people that you feel like you would have a shot at. Go to senior national teams. Look at guys under the age of 23 that haven't gotten moves to big clubs yet. Find a lot of guys in Eastern and Central Europe, in West Africa, really all over Africa. Good places in South America. The Colombian national team, particularly the youth national team at the highest level, will have a lot of guys that haven't left the Colombian league yet. Because you just need to take this model that you have, which is acquiring 5 or 6 really talented young players, and expand it to 12 or 13. As for the tactic, well, it is perhaps a little unorthodox. As long as these roles are playing into the strengths of these players, there's no reason that this tactic can't win the Champions League. I would say a high line is tough to win with. A high back line is tough to win with in this current version of the game. But you have very fast center backs. So. And you have the amount of money in your bank account now that if you want to go after a $30 million Brazilian, go after him. You have the cash. I mean, you've got more than half your payroll budget that you're not even using right now. So if you find a wonder kid that's interested in you, wherever they happen to be in the world, don't be afraid to spend a ton of money. It feels different than the kind of Moneyball approach you've been taking so far and you have to take to get to this point. But now, spend big if you see a Wonder Kid worth it. And that is what is going to get you over the top. Good luck. Next, Inchmerson at Werder Bremen. I'm a couple of months into year 3 at Werder Bremen. After finishing in European qualification in both of the previous seasons, the year has gotten off to a pretty difficult start in the league. Currently sitting in the relegation zone, I haven't had a start this bad before. Dynamics are still seemingly good, and I know for sure the team is good enough to not be sitting in 17th, which leaves me wondering what the problem truly could be. I've been pretty consistent on the 2 formations I have used, often rotating between the 2, but I don't know if this is a tactics issue, if I just need to wait it out and hope the results will begin to turn my way. So Werder Bremen out here, 5 points from 8 matches. Look, as much as I would like to say I haven't been there, we have all been here. And I think there's one thing you need to look up here and then immediately add to your team analytics, and that is the XG table, because this can typically tell you if you're being massively screwed or not. And unfortunately for you, it doesn't look like you are being so massively screwed after making Europe twice. You're supposed to be in 13th based off of the XG you're creating. Now, your offense is dramatically underscoring your XG, but you've also allowed less goals than you should have. But if you want the light at the end of the tunnel approach here, you have played 4 of the top 5 teams in the league already, and you still have, math. Oh, math. You have 9 matches to go until you've completed your playthrough of everybody, so that is a pretty tough way to start the season, especially considering that half of those are on the road. But you're absolutely right that your team shouldn't be performing this badly. We're looking at your star players right now. You've got Arda Güler, who the Turkish Wonder Kid's already come good. He looks absolutely fantastic. This is a Champions League knockout level quality playmaking midfielder, 100%. But there are 2 significant issues that I've noticed. One, your goal scoring is a problem in the team, and I can see why that would be a problem in the team because your 2 wingers and your striker, nobody's got finishing over 11. I'm not a believer in finishing supremacy, but those are the 3 spots where goals are most likely to come from, especially when you have a playmaker who is supposed to shoot less. In Arda Güler, and he has the best finishing on your team. So you might want to get a more typical advanced forward than De Gracia, who really is a pressing forward masquerading as an advanced forward. But the other issue I see is we got a high back line and a mid block. Now this is not something that I can seriously rationalize. I get the initial concept and that you're trying to shrink the field and keep them in their part of the field, and you're also trying to keep your back line in touch with your front line. You don't want them to get separated too much because you have the 2 defensive midfielders. That being said, the end result is that you're not pressing up high enough to contest everything on the field, but your back line is high enough that there is a lot of space for players to run into, which means fullbacks in particular that are not under a whole heap of pressure are able to find long diagonal balls to test your center backs and get in behind. And if that sounds familiar and is providing a lot of XG against you, I would lower your back line to at least standard instead of high. Upon further perusal, I would also take off shoot on sight. You don't really have a team at a Bundesliga level that's going to be banging things in from all over the place, and as we've already covered, you don't really have any elite finishers across that front line. Really, your best goal scorer is Nicholas Füllkrug, who's on your bench right now. You want to, if anything, try and work the ball into the box with your excellent ball carriers and playmaking passers to create very easy goal-scoring opportunities instead of wasting that buildup. I just don't know if a more direct style like this, a more aggressive, fast-playing style, works with this type of team when you do have in your whole front 4 players that are able to receive the ball, run with the ball, pass the ball effectively and build up play that way. I'm not saying lower the tempo, but maybe a lower passing directness would also be fitting, considering you don't have anybody that is exceptionally tall or exceptionally fast at this level. Matoma being your fastest player, and he's not a world-class speedster to stretch the opposition team. Probably put run at defense. Got really good ball carriers. That. No problem with mixed crosses. You have tall players. Definitely play out of defense. They're good enough. Don't let them panic. Give the ball back, especially with that high back line. Just gonna get hit over the top again. Also, counter press has been a nightmare for me this year. It's been a nightmare. It sends guys up, they step forward at the wrong time, and then they end up absolutely screwed. I took it off and have been much better for it. If you want to get those quick dribblers in space, distribute quickly is not a bad idea. You can try to distribute to the flanks. You can mess around with that for a couple of games. Just take that back. Nothing wrong with that. These guys will stay more connected than you think, I promise. But good luck. Next, we have Splash Code at Sampdoria. Hi, Z. I've just started my second season with Sampdoria, and it's less than ideal. The first season was a tough season. I finished 12th. Since Serie A is quite a poor competition, I need to make... Really? I really need to make it at least to Europa to seriously improve the team. I need help in tactics to be able to create more XG, even though my finishers seem to be avoiding the goal. I also want to know if the players I'm bringing in are good enough, as I always struggle to distinguish between decent players and good players. Recruitment-wise, I have my own focuses set, and I also let my director of football set their own. The standard of players I find are amazing. They're just usually out of my price range and non-EU, so I can't register them. Well, if that's the case, you probably should set different scouting parameters, right? The simple solution, often the best one. So we'll just go straight into player assessment. We'll find a player that you have given a star contract to, or one of these important players like Manolo Gabbiadini. And I can tell you that Manolo Gabbiadini is a really good, not great player. You're looking at definitely top half of the table in Serie A with these types of players. Tommaso Agedio, Bartosz Berezzinski I know is good. Great work rate. Absolutely could and should be performing better, I think, in Serie A than you are right now, which is 11. It's early in the season. I definitely think this is a team that has the ability to compete for European places. As for the tactic, we went over a ton of tactical stuff on the last person, but right here when you're playing a 4-3-3, I'm always very, very hesitant unless you have very aggressive wings, which you don't. Mikkelson's on support, right? And this guy's an inverted winger, which is certainly not the most aggressive role out there. I hate having two of these three guys mandated to hang back. Box to box is a great choice here, but turning this at least into an advanced playmaker gives you more pressure on the back line, and you don't end up in a situation where, you know, maybe you get four guys trying to make different runs into the box. You want this to be a five-man pressure system with the wingbacks providing the width. You want these guys, if you have sustained pressure particularly, to be able to throw themselves in there, and a deep-lying playmaker is just not able to do that. A 4-3-3 is very sound defensively, but where you're going to struggle in a 4-3-3, if anything, is being able to score goals. So getting a little more aggressive in the midfield could go a long way. And shoot, you can throw one of these guys in attack. Not both of them. That'd leave you a little exposed, but especially with a halfback hanging out in between these two center backs, you can have one of these guys in attack, no problem. Also, if you're playing with a halfback, always play out of defense. Always. If you're playing a better team, up that tempo. If you're playing against a better team and all you're trying to do is counter, you do not want to get the ball and then pep your way around. It's not going to do anything. Step up more with high defensive line just feels like really, really asking for it in this match engine. Let's check the XG table. You should be doing way better than this. Way better than this. Just basic tactic cleanup stuff. Do that. Turn that off. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with the shorter passing. Higher tempo. The lineup you have in right now is not your strongest lineup. You need guys like Sabiri in there. He'd be great. Coming from here as an advanced playmaker, right? If I take Abdulhamid Sabiri and put him like that, dude, he'd be a dynamo. He'd be fantastic. Especially if you're on positive with the lower tempo and the be more disciplined. You don't want to be playing on positive like that. Give guys like Sabiri in particular, with 16 flair, give these guys the opportunity to go out there and make plays for you. I think it's a bunch of tiny things adding up to very frustrating matches, honestly. Yeah, your defense is not good. You're giving up 3 to Sassuolo, but this is also a tough start to the season. You got Roma, Lazio, Milan, Napoli. That's a tough start to the season, so you can't be too hard on your team here either, but your team should be better than it is. Make those adjustments. Watch some other tactical, if you want to do a full rework here, watch some other tactical guides on this channel and get yourself to a position where you can use the talented team you've put together. But that's it. I'm sweating under the helmet. It's been a hard day's work saving saves, and I'm sure we'll be back soon. If you enjoyed this, please do subscribe, and if you want to keep rolling through, save your saves, don't move a muscle, because here's me saving more saves on FM23.